Hello everyone, it's Tekken and Coffee episode 5, I think. It might be 6. I hope you're all doing good. I'm sort of preparing for a typhoon, I guess a hurricane is coming tonight. Everybody's kind of scurrying to get their food and everything now before the really bad weather hits. I've prepared with some candles, some tea lights. I'm going to get it all cozy. It's what I like to do when the weather's really bad. Probably going to do some practice mode and play some Tekken tonight. So I'm in a great mood. I'm having a fantastic day. I hope you are as well. But I've got my coffee. Let's go on Reddit and see what we can learn about the game today. So I've just scrolled down to the first post that is sort of phrased as a question. And it says, is Tekken 7 majority predictionary or reactionary? What would you say the percentage of is which, if not all? It's kind of difficult to understand what the question is because of the way it's phrased. I'm not sure predictionary is even a word. I think you might be thinking of predictionary, which is like I think a dictionary for kids. But I'm guessing the question is something like, is Tekken based more in predictions or reactions? Which is an interesting question to think about. I think the first thing that comes to mind is that if you want to break it down to like a 60% this and 40% this, you can't really do that because you're leaving out a giant chunk of the game when you're only talking about predictions and reactions, because you're leaving out proactivity, doing something before the opponent has done anything. And if you're playing very aggressively and you use an aggressive character, that might be a majority of what you're doing when you're playing the game. So it doesn't really make sense to break it down to only these two categories like that. But if the question is, are predictions or reactions more important? I really can't say. I think you need both. But for me, the Tekken model, the Tekken melody was always, somebody does something, usually gets blocked, and now the person who got blocked has a disadvantage. The person who did the block has advantage, and the momentum shifts a little bit. It's the other guy's turn, and then they go back and forth like that, taking their turns, and then the match is sort of punctuated by reactions or predictions. Somebody does something impressive and quick, and they take all the momentum. Usually they launch into a combo, right? Or some sort of big punish. And now they're going to apply Oki. And it keeps going like that. So it's like the reactions and predictions are these moments where somebody's able to take control of the match. And those are the things that I think really stand out when you're looking at skilled players. They're able to react to the high in time. They know that they can duck it. They have the speed and the experience to do it, and then they get to usually perform a combo or something like that. It's an interesting question, but I don't think you can play only by predicting everything or reacting to everything. Reaction that is with punishment and block punishment. Predictions, that's more like crush moves, low parries, and hard reads like that. Both very important. Yes, this is real. Nerf him for real. I had a feeling this would have happened. Leroy should be in virtual fighter. Is that what it's called? I don't remember. Not Tekken. He's too advanced to be in a Tekken game. Tekken's basic gameplay and basic combat mechanics, and it goes on about. I guess Leroy is a little bit too high level to fit into Tekken. I think that this person is trolling and having a bit of fun, and the fact that people are making salty posts about it means that he's being very successful at that, which is great. I love this kind of thing. If he's serious about Leroy being too advanced for Tekken, I think the reason people are going to be confused by that is the fact that Leroy is actually extremely basic, right? It's very, very basic stuff what he does. Very sort of vanilla flavored Tekken character with just move properties and frame data that stand out as extremely powerful, 12 frame counter hit mid launcher, for example. There are these rules of Tekken that generally everybody adheres to, and then when you deviate a little bit from the norm and you have a move that is particularly strong in some way, that's usually compensated for by some other weakness. So I think a good example is if we're talking about counter hit mids, the usual safe counter hit mid launcher impacts at around 15 frames. We're talking about stuff like down forward 4 from Katarina, for example. And then Elisa has her 14 frame counter hit mid in the back one too, but that's also compensated for by the fact that it's tied to this string. It's punishable. You can finish the string, but if you finish the string, they can walk it. So you do take risks when you perform the move, right? It's not just a safe mid pokish kind of move that you can throw out there and then go back to blocking all the time. But then you have Leroy, who has a 12 frame mid launcher out of nowhere, and it's, you know, it's not like it's a 13 either. It's like much faster than any other move in its category. Does have kind of shitty range, but then again, when you're using counter hit moves, it's because your opponent is attacking into you and moving towards you. So that weakness aspect of it is kind of mitigated by the fact that it's used mainly for counter hits, but there you go. I notice when I pick Noctis, people either quit in the middle of the match or quit after one game. Might be true. I mean, I have played a lot of characters that people don't like to play against that much. I've played a lot of Katarina in the past. I play a lot of Elisa these days. I've played a lot of Zafina. So it's like, it's going to happen. And there's not really much you can do about it. It's also going to come down to how you play your Noctis. You know, if you're doing a lot of running 1+2, down back 2, and down back 1+2, the Noctis trifecta, even though it has been modified and nerfed a little bit, I still think it's like you have to try and deal with these linear options by moving sideways. But if you don't do that really well and you time it really perfectly, you're still going to get launched for such massive damage that it's like, I knew what he was going to do. I did the thing that I'm supposed to do when he does that, and now I'm getting comboed, you know, even though I made a perfect prediction. I just didn't execute perfectly, you know. So, I don't know, but you also can't modify your character choice or your play style to suit your opponent. You have to play the game for your own sake and the way you want to. So, yeah, it's just something to deal with. I recently had to remake my entire account because people were refusing to play me again because my account is listed as being English speaking. And I don't know if that's because, you know, people are afraid that I'm going to be really far away, and so they're not going to have good connection speed with me, or because that means that, you know, they play me, they see that I have that region, and then they know that I'm, for example, an Elisa user, and the next time I show up, they can just, you know, no penalty, just decide to dodge me right there, and they don't have to play that matchup. But now that I've made a new account that is based in Japan and they can't tell me apart, I'm getting so many more matches, and it's actually sped up the process of getting like games in Tekken so much for me that I'm enjoying the game even more because I just get to play it more now. Like, honestly, twice as much. Who is the most iconic Tekken character of all time? Out of these, I don't know. I mean, the one that comes to mind, I guess, is Paul, but I don't know. These are all staples, and there are a couple more names that you should probably add to that list of like the staple characters. I think Nina is in there. I think she's been in every version of this game that has ever existed, more or less. Lee versus Shaheen. So I usually play Lee sometimes. Loved him since Tekken 5 DR. Okay, so basically he plays Lee, but he's thinking about maybe switching to Shaheen. I think both of these characters are very good. They both have the slide mix-up, so if you're very good at doing that with Lee, the execution, then you can carry that over to your Shaheen. I think that the slide mix-ups are actually pretty good. Shaheen gets, you know, that guaranteed little follow-up from his snake step in the current season. If you're asking which character is stronger, I think they're both good, but I think Shaheen is slightly better. I think Shaheen is an excellent character. I think he's the sort of archetype of like a good tournament character. He has like everything you want. The combos are amazing for this character. I think the mix-ups are good. I think the punishment is good. He's got both the down 4-2 and the orbital, so, you know, safe launchers for days. Just a fantastic character. Decent lows, while standing punishment, counter hits. A very, very very complete and strong character. Is Khanzia's electric easier to execute than other electrics? I don't think so. I think they're basically the same thing, but I don't do them because I don't play these characters, so there might be a slight difference in like texture. I know, the Korean backdash cancel is done the same way no matter what character you play, but for me, some characters, it just feels a lot smoother and easier, and I can do them like faster and so reliably. And then other characters, they feel a little bit awkward. With Elisa, the backdash is really quite awkward in my opinion. For example, Gon Ryu has a Korean backdash that is super easy and smooth, and that's probably something to do with your eyes and what's going on the screen and the smoothness of the animation or something like that. If there are any differences, I think they're subtle. Zafina, why can't I just change the color of her shoes and panties? Do you mean in person? Would you like to help her change? There is a thing where when you have the player one costume for Zafina, no matter what colors you change on the model, I think the shoes, I didn't know about the panties, but apparently they always stay blue. So what I do when I play the character and I want to like make a cool customization is I just do something where the blue shoes kind of fit in. It's kind of cool to have completely different color scheme going on, and then these cobalt blue shoes down there. It is a strange thing because with most other characters you can change pretty much everything on the character. Maybe it's just something they missed in the development cycle. How do you feel about guest characters becoming a staple in future installments? I used to believe that guest characters were really harming the game and usually coming out in not very well balanced states and so on. Now I feel more like that's DLC in general. I'm not sure, but I think that guest characters are ultimately like a marketing gimmick, and the reason that can become a little bit problematic is, okay, you're trying to put a Street Fighter character in Tekken so that because people who already play Tekken are going to stay playing Tekken if that's what they like, but you're trying to get somebody who plays Street Fighter or who watches The Walking Dead or who plays a lot of Final Fantasy to come and play Tekken. Maybe they get hooked and they stay, but I think usually what happens is they get excited about the game, maybe they buy it, which is the main objective, I guess, and then they go back to what they usually do, and the people who are still playing Tekken have to stay there with these DLC guest characters who they might not be very excited about. And then the question just becomes, is this a well-balanced character that we want in the game or not? If they are, then I suppose I think it's fine, but it's also the case that when you get a guest character, maybe a legacy character gets left out. And I think the best example of that is, like, I wasn't very excited at all when that weird goth hentai robot thing came out for Soul Calibur 6. And I think Soul Calibur has like some of the most fun and like interesting, creative, dramatic character design of any fighting game. And there are so many cool characters. And then this guest character who some people, I think some certain famous players even like pressure the developers to make it that character, which I think is kind of unfair because it's kind of like you're trying to force your own hobbies and interests into the game. And then, my favorite Soul Calibur character is the Lizard Man, Aeon Kalkos, but I also liked a couple of other characters like Setsuka. She's in now apparently and looks really cool. And so I was just really excited to see what the next character was going to be, and then it turned out that it was this weird big ass hentai girl that I couldn't care less about. So I don't know, but then again, like, it's also about them pinpointing the shit that you like, right? Because what I used to say is, like, I think because I love Bloodborne, it's one of my favorite video games of all time. I'm really into like Lovecraft, he's one of my favorite writers, and I reread his stuff all the time. So if they had a trailer where they fade to black and then the dog goes "Good Hunter," and we had like a reveal with the hunter with the flippy saw and the blunderbuss or something, then I would be really excited to watch that trailer, and I would probably make a video about how hype I was. But in the end, that fizzles out really quick, and you just end up with another character in the roster that is hopefully balanced, and unfortunately probably gone by the next installment. And that's another thing. Like, do you really want to become like a full-time, super dedicated Negan player, and then Tekken 8 comes out and he doesn't exist ever again? Who knows? I don't think that the concept of guest characters is going away. I think it's probably just going to become even more of a staple going forward. Season 4 official trailer revealed on September the 3rd. That's tomorrow when I'm recording this, so maybe. That would be nice. We haven't really had any news since that initial one. So it would be nice to know some more. It's probably going to be coming out pretty soon. Yeah. In Tekken 8, should Devil Jin and Jin fuse together or remain separate? Again, I don't really play Mishimas, and they probably have stronger opinions on this than I do. It's weird because in Tekken we don't really have character archetypes, right? We have the Mishima archetype, and that's really the only one. Whereas like other fighting games will have, more defined character archetypes. I think we have like, a grappling character like King, but it's not like he has to grapple that much. He has fantastic punishment and whiff punishment and mix-ups and all the rest of it like any other character. So, character archetypes aren't really a thing except for Mishimas. And now Heihachi is dead, so if you want to get rid of Devil Jin or fuse him with Jin as well, you end up with Khanzia, who's like the typical standard Mishima, and then you have Jin, who's kind of like him but sort of weird. And I think thematically I like the idea of Jin, that he's sort of a Mishima but not really, because he's of the bloodline, but then he doesn't like them, and he went and learned martial arts, I think from Wang Jinrei and his mother, so he's a little bit different. I don't know. I don't particularly like playing any of these characters, but they're so integral to the story that they're going to show up in one shape or another. I will say that a really cool thing that happened in Tekken Tag 2 was if you had Jin and Devil Jin on your team and you switched between them, instead of running off the screen and switching out like that, Jin just transformed into Devil Jin, which I think was a really nice touch in that game. The tag out mechanic in general, the fact that it worked as well as it did, despite the fact that the game was so crazy with the movement and the giant roster and everything, is honestly kind of impressive. Every character should be able to launch Punish Akuma's Rage Art. Well, yeah, it's a weird one, because Rage Arts, you usually die if you get them blocked. That's the way they're balanced. So then you have this complete weird outlier in Akuma who doesn't like the rules of Tekken, and then he just has a rage art that is a throw, kind of. What I usually do is I will jump back, and then I'll do like a delayed kick in the air, and that deals a chunk of damage or something like that. But I guess sometimes that won't even kill. And I think if you react perfectly and you do this weird advanced thing that you have to do to deal with that rage art, and it doesn't kill him, and then he still takes the round, that's going to feel really rough as the opponent. So I think you could just, if you wanted to, have it the way it is, but it's blockable, How big is the player base in PlayStation 4 compared to PC? Well, I don't know. It depends on what region you're in, but here in Japan, PC gaming isn't really a big thing. Japan is all about console, so I think here, I saw some numbers a while ago. I don't know how accurate they are, but I think something like 30 to 40% of the player base is on PlayStation in Japan, which is why it's a great option for me when I play here. But I think mainly it's PC if you go back to like Europe, where PC gaming has been the standard for a pretty long time. I want to love Tekken, but I shouldn't have to go online and watch 45-minute video to understand what the hell is happening when I'm getting bodied. I don't think that's the right attitude, friend. If you want to play the game well, then watching a 45-minute video is... you haven't even started spending time learning this game. I think if your point is that so many things about the game are hidden and you have to have them explained to you by a content creator as opposed to them being explained in the game, then I actually do think you have a good point. So if I misunderstood you, then I'm sorry. And we've talked about that recently on the Wave Dash podcast and everything, how like a nice, good, really welcoming tutorial would be good for this game, but it would definitely be longer than 45 minutes because you would have to explain everything, 3D models, the crush system, universal low parry, chicken, everything that is like a hidden little mechanic that you have to find out about, like an archaeologist digging for treasure. These days would have to be like explained in detail. So I don't know, but learning how to play Tekken and getting good at it is not it's a question of spending time with the game and much more than 45 minutes, something more along the lines of maybe 45 months before you get to do some advanced stuff in this game. So patience is an important asset when you're playing this game. How often do you play Tekken? Every day, every other day, or 4 times a week? For me, I either play it at least a little bit every day or not at all, and it comes and goes in periods for me. So if you don't see any videos on Tekken from me or anything like that for like a week or so, it's usually because I got tired or I needed a break or I'm busy with something else, and I just leave Tekken for a while, which is good for you, I think, and is good for your gameplay. I think it makes you better at the game in the long run to take some breaks. But if I'm like really interested and excited about the game the way I am right now, then I usually try and pop in for like at least an hour and maybe do some practice mode at night, or play a couple of online games. But I guess every other day or 4 times a week, when I'm interested in the game, and when I'm a little bit disinterested or tired, then usually not at all for a couple of days. First time player tournament winner. Hey folks, hoping you can Riker, the Diablo guy. Hey folks, can't do the voice. Hoping you can help me out here. I seem to recall a player, possibly pro FGC gamer, trying Tekken out for the first time and going to Evo, but for the life of me I can't remember who. I think you might be thinking of, I don't know either, but I think you might be thinking of Punko, who I think is a Street Fighter player who started playing Akuma in Tekken and did really well. I think that might be it. What advice would you give your previous green rank self? I would probably just give myself a hug. I mean, if it's me from the future, I know that I'm going to get better at the game, so I can just say, don't worry about it. It's definitely going to happen, inevitably. And then past me would like be able to completely relax about the game. But if I wasn't allowed to tell him that, then I would just probably just give him a hug and let him know that I think he's going to be just fine, less fear and anxiety and more positivity, and then everything is going to work out. I wouldn't give him like specific tips about how to play the game necessarily. Can someone explain to me what you do when you lab a character? Do you actually try the character out yourself? What moves do you look at? Well, are you labbing a character that you want to learn, or are you labbing a character that you want to learn how to play against? I think in both cases, it just depends. If you're looking at like, how do I deal with, for example, somebody knocks you down with a certain move, and you want to know, is there some way I can get up safely here? Or can the opponent do this move and get guaranteed damage on me? What I would do when that happens is I would have the opponent dummy, I would record them doing it, and then I would try all the different ways of escaping off the ground, because I know them, so I can just try them in sequence and fuck around with it until I figure it out. But somebody else might prefer to set the opponent to a certain wake-up option and then do the offensive action themselves. If you're trying to learn how to play against the character, I might look at a video of a high-level player using that character, and looking at what their opponent's doing, but also like when they do a move, recording that on the dummy and then figuring out different ways of dealing with that with my character. But if you're talking about like labbing in terms of learning a character, I mean, it's different for everybody. I usually start with the standard mid pokes. I want to know about the down forward one, and then I usually go to combos. Some people will tell you that you shouldn't start with combos because they're less important than neutral and pokes and stuff like that. But I always want to do the combos because I want to get a feel for if they're fun and cool to execute and have some cool options. Can I get some unscaled damage on the ground? How do I convert to the wall? And if I get excited about that stuff, then I get excited about, okay, how am I going to create these launches so I can do these combos? And then I worry about all the structures around trying to create opportunities for launching, like how I'm going to move and poke and set up stuff and look at the lows and so on. So I think everybody has their own way. I remember Aris, whose original really long form Tekken Tag 2 character tutorials is like where I started learning about all of these things. He said in one of them that he starts with throws and throw Oki, which is a weird spot to start. It was more important in previous versions of the game than it is right now, I think. Throws are just a little bit too easy to deal with. But imagine that you're going to learn a completely new character, and the first thing you do as an advanced player is you learn exactly where your character is going to place the opponent character after the throw, and figuring out what options you have for playing Oki there. It's an interesting angle to come at it. There's some construction going on outside here. I don't know if you can hear that, but I'm sorry if it's picking up. Has there been any update on Season 4 drop date? I don't think so, no, but I think it's going to happen really quite soon. Probably in the next couple of days, maybe by the time you're watching this, who knows. How many flashes is too many flashes? One. I don't like this move. Well, it's cool, it's iconic, it's Yoshi, staple, whatever. It is annoying though when you have good moves and specific options you want to use that he can just launch punish you with the flash for doing. For example, Miguel's tackle, which is a really good move for him because it's like long range, it's chunky, it's knockdown, and it's safe, which is amazing. Imagine that, a move like that being safe, and then you do it on Yoshi and he launch punishes you with the flash right away. Same thing for Elisa's while running 3-4 when she spins like a skeet, in the air. He launch punishes that. He launch punishes spring kicks, but then again, everybody can do that. What are good ways to practice Korean backdash and sidestepping? The main way, I guess, is to try and do them. I guess that's it. Try and do them many, many times in a row, and then come back later and do it again, and then leave it for a bit, and then maybe do it the next day, and then do that for like weeks. And that's basically it. Anybody can learn it. Anybody can learn it. It feels like a steep hill to climb in the beginning, but it is on a level of difficulty that anybody can do it. I mean, these days, if you're playing against like someone who's pretty low rank and they're doing like clean, fast electrics on PlayStation where there isn't, any macros or ways you can cheat that out. I mean, even the difficult techniques in the game, with some very specific exceptions, are at a level where anybody can accomplish them, I think. So don't worry about it. Don't doubt yourself. Don't waste time doubting yourself. Spend that time practicing instead. Best Season 3 character out of the 5 that always seem to be an S or S+. So which one do you think is best out of these, basically? And I think it's fucking Rom, but you could make an argument for Akuma. If Akuma is, doing all the fireball cancel to death combo, down 3, all of those shenanigans, and he does really well with that. I think he hits a level where he's like a complete god. Fucking Rom shuts the opponent out completely in a similar way, but also in a very different way, because he just keeps attacking and manipulates all the space on the stage, and you don't really get a chance to interact with him, High Tekken players, what other games do you recently play? Well, I don't play that many other games these days. I used to play a lot of different games, but I played a bit of World of Warcraft recently because I'm thinking maybe I'm going to play Shadowlands with a couple of friends. But I mainly like messed around on my three characters that I've had for, decade, and did some cool transmogs and stuff, and got like the mounts and the stuff that I want. Is there an incestuous subtext to the Williams sisters' relationship? I haven't noticed one, but that does not mean that you shouldn't draw the fan art that you're thinking of making this post, or write your fan fiction. I haven't seen it, but then again, it is a Japanese game, and fetishizing incest is as much of a Japanese cultural staple as sushi or beating your wife. I feel like all people I've trained with don't play as much as I do. That's something that happened to me too. I had my rivals in my little offline circle, and then I was the one who started taking the game too seriously. And I'd bring a little notebook sometimes when we played, and I'd like reference my little frame data notes like an asshole. And yeah, which sometimes spoiled the fun a little bit, I think, for my friends. So don't be that guy. If you want to practice and get really good and outshine your friends, do it, but do it stealth, pretend that you just happen to do really well. Perfect reading players, Tag Tournament 2 online. Don't know if it's me or something else, but when I play today, the online mode of Tekken Tag 2, nearly every player I came across seemed to read my inputs, and most of the time I lost. When I do a move, it gets countered by the other player move, and it happened all the time. Okay, so this is actually a common thing. I might have talked about it in an old video, but it's like a typical feeling when you start a new fighting game. Everything you do gets dealt with perfectly, and you don't have a chance to compete at all. And that is usually an illusion. What it means is that your opponents probably know some frame data and you don't. And that means that they can just know, okay, I have advantage right now, so if I attack and my opponent attacks, my move is always going to come out quicker, and so I'm going to connect, and if they swing, I even get a counter hit. So it becomes very easy when you know a lot of frame data and your opponent doesn't. That's why when you see high-level players who like make new accounts, or they try and grind up a new character, and they have these like giant win streaks. Like I had a new account with a Miguel a while ago, and I had like a, I think, 74 game win streak on him. But all you do is like with him, back 3, up forward 1 is the jumping punch, right? And you put the opponent at disadvantages, and then you do counter hit moves, and you can just run through people like that. So I would say look up some frame data for your character, and then I think you're really gonna improve your chances there. Sorry, I had to cut the video there quickly because the noise outside got really bad. I looked out, and I think what they're doing, they have one of those hydraulic lifts that you see on like fire trucks. I think what they're actually doing is they're trying to hurricane proof all the cabling above the street where I live. So maybe the wind is going to be pretty bad. If you've ever seen pictures of Japan, there are all these like nests of cables above the streets, and that's because we have earthquakes all the time, so you can't put stuff in the ground as safely. But now they're like wiring everything up with like thick metal stuff, so I think maybe the wind is going to be pretty bad tonight. We'll just have to wait and see. But let's move on. Leroy player is not happy with TMM video. I think I saw Adrian post this the other day when I was at work. It's like, I think he made a video about nerfs you still have to make to Leroy, and some Leroy player doesn't agree, it was just kind of funny because Adrian obviously just says very reasonable things in his video. His face is kind of perfect in this thumbnail. He's like, bitch. But I also love this meme. This guy right here is like one of my favorite things ever. I think the original video is called Las Balleras, and it's he just owns everybody so hard, which is what I loved about it, with just his charm, because I think basically what they're doing in the video is like calling him out and calling him an asshole. I think the interviewer says, ¿Cuál es el trabajo más duro que has hecho? Like, what's the hardest you've ever worked? I think they're implying that, like, he's never done a job of work because he's like a celebrity. And he's like, La playa, trabaja la playa. And he tells this amazing story of a day when he not only worked really hard, he also makes everybody like cry laughing and love him, everybody in the studio. And then he becomes like one of the most famous internet memes of all time, and everybody just loves this guy. So I love it because they call him in, get him into the studio. They're trying to call him an asshole, and he just, owns the entire situation with just his charm and a great laugh. And I love that about it. And then it turned into this whole thing, when you put your own subtitles on it, and it gets really funny. But I just really love this guy. But this is probably a funny video, so maybe go to TMM's channel and check it out. Are there any characters that you just feel the need to key charge after winning? Whenever I fought battle against Eddie, I always feel the need to key charge. No, I never feel the need to key charge. I've done it on rare occasions when I feel like me and the opponent are having a lot of fun, and maybe I've been eating a bit of shit for a while, and then I do something cool and I come back. But that's, to me, like, when a dog is really excited to play and it goes down like that and the tail is wagging. It's like, because I'm excited to keep going. I only want to do it in like an amicable way when me and my opponent are having fun, because me and my friends, when we were playing offline, we would do that, to talk shit to one another and have fun. But like the online match where you're being mean to somebody and it's done in with bad intentions, I think is unnecessarily disrespectful. But then again, it's this whole thing where we can't communicate all those subtleties because we have no words. All we have to express ourselves are the mute characters on the screen and the moves that they do. So who knows? But I don't feel the need to key charge any specific character. High level Lucky Chloe gameplay. Let's check it out. Okay, you shouldn't laugh at this. You guys are assholes if you laughed at this. But the reason it's not nice to like laugh at somebody who's not an experienced Tekken player when they're playing, because if I do something that I haven't done a lot, if somebody was watching me play StarCraft, or I don't know, paddle a kayak, they would probably laugh at me if they could do that at a competitive level, because it would look stupid. But the reason this is funny to me is the way this person is holding the stick, right? If you look at this hand right here, the angle of the arm is coming down like that. That is going to kill your arm in like minutes. You're going to be in a lot of pain if you play like that, because usually what happens is an arcade cabinet is like really big and wide, so you rest your arms on it, and then your fingers are above the buttons, as opposed to angling and placing your hand above the buttons and then having these like tense fingers and extending one of them down and then doing this with the entire arm to press a button. Like, for example, if you put your hands on your keyboard right now, if you're at your computer, like try and put like your hand on your keyboard as if you're about to write something with one hand. I think you'll notice, if you just relax your hand, that most of your hand, like pretty much all of it except for the fingers, it's not above the keyboard. Only the fingers are really above the keyboard, because you're angling it like that, and then you're letting the fingers move around to push the buttons. And I think when you play on a stick, mainly that's what you want to do as well. You let that do the work instead of moving the entire arm, because it's going to be very tiring, and I think not be good for your precision. But then the stick hand is also funny, because you can see there's a bit of space between the ring finger and the middle finger, which I think means that the ball is resting right there. I have seen people grip it like that, but it just gives this person this like little Nosferatu vampire grip on the stick, and then the really tense, like extended hand slamming the buttons like that on the other side. If you play Tekken on stick like that for a long period of time, you might really mess up your arms, so I don't recommend it. But this person might really love Chloe and loves playing on stick, and 2 years from now is going to kick all of our asses. So you shouldn't, laugh at new players. Is Elisa immune to sunlight? Good question. I think she is immune to sunlight. Otherwise, you couldn't play her on like Jungle Outpost 2 and stages like that, right? But that's the thing with Elisa. I usually say that I play her because I like vampires, but that's not the entire story. I don't really think she is a vampire. And there is something that I like more than vampires. I really love like demonic shit and stuff like that. I've always really, like, don't worry if you're like a kid watching this in the US and you're worried like your parents are going to hear. It's not like I'm a devil worshiper. It's just an aesthetic that I really love and that I'm really interested in. And I used to be really into it when I was a kid. I think I even like cut my hand one time. Yeah, I definitely did. And I tried to like use my own blood in a little ritual that I saw online and stupid stuff like that. And my favorite game when I was a kid was Heroes of Might and Magic 3, and I would always play, Inferno was my favorite castle to use. So with Elisa, I love vampires and vampire lore and shit like that, but I also really like that kind of thing. And Elisa, to me, feels honestly more like a succubus than a vampire. And Harada says that she's from hell and she has the big horns. So like my main thing is like my ideal Tekken character pretty much is her coming back in Tekken 8, being a non-2D character with a more traditional move list, and then I want them to lean into the demonic side of her more. I want her to have actual fucking goat legs. That would be so awesome if she had like scaly hooves when she does her running slash kick. Can you imagine that happening and you hitting with that when she has an actual hoof that smashes into them when she's dive kicking and stuff? Maybe little leathery wings that look actually a little bit disgusting and maybe charred, not that stupid Japanese shit, whatever. Everything is like a one-winged angel with like one charred wing and an eye patch. Don't go to anime, make it look kind of actually kind of dark. I would think that would be amazing, but who knows. But that's the thing, and it's a Japanese character, and they don't really care about the differences of like what is like more demonic and what is like a vampire. They've just taken like things that they've seen and aspects that they know about to create something, and it becomes this sort of amalgamation of different concepts, which is fine. That's creativity. An open question for French players: why do you never accept E in matches? That's what I was talking about earlier. I've had the same problem. So yeah, it's annoying when it happens. Regionalism, Why is Jin's tracking going nuts? Jin has traditionally had the fastest and best homing move, or one of them in Tekken. He had, I think, the fastest one in Tekken Tag 2. It's very famous. When you're facing a player far more skilled than you and they make reads on you. This is from the original Dune movie, which you should watch. I actually really like it. You're not to know this, but I'm a huge Dune fan. I've read all of the original books. I really love them. It's my favorite sci-fi universe, more or less. It's really great. I think this is. I haven't watched that movie since I was like, I don't know how young, but I think this is a Bene Gesserit, and they're like these really creepy sorcerer nuns, but they're like influencing politics throughout the galaxy over millennia by, it's really interesting because they have like genetic memory and premonition powers. They can sort of see the future, and what they do is they like go to cultures and they insert into those cultures like legends that align with their political goals like a millennia from now. So when they come around like in 1,000 years, they will already have put like aspects into the religion and culture and legend of that planet that make them friendly towards them and their goals. They're like super interesting. I think they're one of the only organizations and like aspects of the universe that show up across the entire series of books, because it's like it spans thousands and thousands of years. But and they also use like weird because I think they're like super good at sex and manipulation through sex. So they kind of like mind fuck men by having sex with them so good that they become like mind addicted to these sisters. It's a really interesting. I mean, it sounds kind of fucked up it is really fucked up. It's a very like dark and strange story, but it's beautiful, and I think it's genius. And I've heard that they're making a new movie with an amazing cast, and it was supposed to come out like this year. I don't know if it's delayed because of Corona. But I mean, it's one of those things. They're going to turn one of your favorite properties into a movie. It might be great, it might be wrong, you know, it might be crappy or whatever. It doesn't really matter. Go back and read those books because they are amazing. I would say we'll read the first 3. Children of Dune is like my favorite one. Then God Emperor of Dune. Some people think that's the best one, but that's when I got a little bit less interested because that one was just kind of weird. It's got a lot of deep concepts, but one of the main characters is kind of turning into a body horror kind of monster in it, which is something that I always found a little bit creepy when I was a kid. He kind of morphs into a giant worm. But fantastic books that you should definitely check out. Anything else? Ever just punch and never stop until your fist starts to bleed? Well, if you've ever punched something or someone, that's usually the first punch will make your fist bleed. That's why fighters wear gloves. It's to protect their hands and wrists, not the opponent's face necessarily. What would be your thoughts if Raiden from Metal Gear became a DLC character? I liked Metal Gear Solid. I played the first 3 games on PlayStation 2, and I thought they were great. Then again, Raiden, isn't that just Lee if he was Master Raven? Kind of. It's just you splice those 2 characters, and that's pretty much exactly what you end up with, right? I don't know how long I've been talking for. As usual, I lose track of time, but I think I'm going to... Oh, who's the true parry character? Good question. Geese, Jin, Leroy. Well, I think most of my viewers know the answer to this question, and the true answer is not on this list. The true parry character is Wong Jinrei, and he's not in the game, but it would be really cool if he was. And he had that original parry where he would do this with his hand, and he could like parry a million things in a row, and it was the dopest thing ever. Really cool character. Love to see him back, or some of aspects of him lifted into a new character. It's kind of maybe what happened with Leroy, but not really. So I'd love to see him again, but he would be like, 200 years old at this point. So yes, I'm going to let that be it. Thank you so much for watching this. I hope you enjoyed my ramblings. I really enjoyed making it as usual. I always have a lot of fun doing these, so I'm going to keep on doing it. Now I need to, because it's going to start raining, I can tell very soon. I need to go get some food and some snacks. Then I'm going to bunker up with some practice and what I think I'm going to learn some Master Raven. It's going to be the 100th time this year I decide to try and pick her up. And I'll see you guys in the next video. Bye bye for now.